Hello, this is Q Johnson at Team NFP. We're going to revisit PayrollTm8 today, and our focus will be on the allocations of benefit costs. We processed the second payroll in December in our last demo, and our story going forward here is that we've recently processed the last and third payroll in December. It's an organization that processes biweekly on Fridays, as you may recall, and since January 1st fell on a Friday, we ran a payroll on December 31st. And on it, we accrued the last 6 days of the month since the pay period ended on the 25th, and now all the payroll for the month of December is available for us to use for these benefit allocations. The benefit allocation subject is very important. Most organizations that use external payroll, about the only way they can afford to do their allocations is to take the easy shortcut and say that we're going to allocate benefit costs the same way salaries are allocated. And if you think about it long enough, that could only be accurate if the employees in all the cost centers uniformly participated in benefit programs. And of course, as soon as you hear me say that, you know that it's a lie. The question is, how big a lie is it, and does anybody care? And if it's a big lie, you can be sure your funding source auditors do care, and they're smart enough to figure this stuff out these days. So what you'd really prefer to do, if you could afford to, would be to allocate each employee's share of the benefit costs to the cost centers that they worked in. But it would be prohibitively expensive to do it manually, but PayrollTm8 can do it for you effortlessly, and we're going to show you how. Since we've saved the salaries for each employee in our payroll history, we know where they worked. The only challenge for the benefit allocations is getting the dollar amount for each employee associated with that employee so that we can allocate those dollars the way that employee worked. So let's take a look at this. We have all these different benefit allocations set up for this particular organization. You can set up as many as you want. Every time you add one, it automatically appears on the menu. We have three types of these regarding the methods in which we allocate or associate the amounts with the employees. The first is the absolute simplest, and it's fixed amount. Dental is an example of this. So our fixed amount here is $55.75. We can look at the amounts here. You notice we have one employee whose amount is not the same as everybody else's. It's because we changed it after we set it up. This reflects the fairly common circumstance where even when all the other employees pay some nominal amount, the highly compensated individuals have to pay a little more. So when the plan changes at the next plan year, and let's say everybody moved up to $57, you could apply it, everybody has it, and realize how easy this is if you have 200 employees with this, for example. But we can still change his to make it a little more if we want to. And then when we save that, it's ready to go. Okay? And by ready to go, we mean all we have to do is come in here and change this from November, which it probably would used to have been, but I've just changed this here myself. Set it up for the December journal voucher number and dates, and just press transfer to MIP. Log in like it requires us to do for the import, and instantly, practically, our entries in MIP. So let's go to MIP and open it up and look at it. And there we are with a journal voucher for our dental for December. And of course, it's a summary entry. We've aggregated as much as we can so that the expense for this across the various cost centers, each cost center has only a single debit. So you say, my funding source auditors aren't going to be happy with that. They're not going to know how we did it. And I agree. That's why we give you an allocation history with such rich detail. Let's take a look at this. here is the one we just did, and let's look at just that one for now. All right, there's all the folks that had dental insurance, and we'll just look at this employee, the top guy, so you can see what's actually available here. His salary for the month of December was this amount, okay, $4,700. But it was allocated into these various smaller pieces to these various cost centers on his respective payrolls. So although his benefit amount is $57, smaller amounts were allocated to each of these cost centers based on the ratio of the salaries that were charged to the cost centers. You can tell here this is really pretty close to 10%, and of course that is 10% of that. So you've got really rich information and a print button to give it to your auditors and just let them go and analyze it to their heart's content. You've got an employee level allocation. So it's easy for fixed amounts. What other kinds do we have? We have one that works on a percentage of earnings. Really handy for workers' comp or pension matching. Here's the retirement one. We're using 5%. And if we did 5% for November, I think we have some November payroll here. We would see amounts of about $640 in December. When we calculate it, a much different amount, $1,900. Probably November only had one payroll processed in PayrollTm8, which clearly would be a mistake, but that's why the amounts look different. We're just demonstrating the functionality of the calculation here. Also, please note that on the percentage of earnings types, you have this extra tab here where you get to choose which salaries codes are included as basis for this calculation, in this case of this 5% calculation. It might well be that you have certain types of earnings which shouldn't be included in such a calculation. For example, in workers' comp, they don't care about what tuition assistance you gave anybody or what you paid them for commissions or bonuses. They're interested in the earnings that reflect the hours worked. And so you wouldn't want to include some of those, and you get to exclude them here. But other than that, it processes exactly the same. You'll have the entry information that you'll put in, and you'll transfer it to MIP with that button. If it's not a fixed amount and it's not a percentage of earnings, we're stuck with the hard one. And we show you an example of it here. Here it is, amount by employee. There's no fixed amount. There's no percentage. You just have to have the amounts, okay? And you can maintain them here. Let's say we made him 250 and him 410, and him 255 and him 190. You know, you can make them whatever you want. When you plan your changes, you have to change them all yourself, okay? But in looking at this, we realize probably we were already doing this somewhere in Excel so that we could make an entry for MIP that reflected all this properly. And here we can see that their amounts are $1,800. Let's go ahead and close this because we anticipated that you'd have an Excel sheet that would have this information in it. So each month when you work these, if you want to, rather than maintain them here, you can go get them from Excel. So we'll go get the file we made over there. And we saved it as a PRN file from Excel. There's our file. We open it, and when we next open the health insurance expense, sure enough, now the amounts are $2,290, and they were just, you know, that $1,900 and something, I think it was. So anyway, the amounts have been updated for the new month, and in fact, the population of the group may have changed, which would also be correct, right? Employees enroll and disenroll from various programs all the time, and if it was right in that Excel sheet, it's going to be right here. We still want to set it up to look at the salaries for December when we decide how to allocate it, but it's going to go off to MIP the same way when you press the Transfer to Met button. Obviously, this one's not ready. It needs to have the session ID and the dates changed and those kinds of things, but it'll go the same way as we saw this one go. Thank you for your time today. I hope this gives you a pretty good understanding of both the importance and the ease of doing employee-level benefit allocations with PayrollTm8. If you have questions, please ask us or your Team NFP business partner. We'd be happy to do a live demo for you at which you could ask any questions you want and get answers from us. Thanks very much for your time today.